Okay. All right. Praise the Lord, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for logging in and joining. I'm so excited for today's webinar on lawyers and law enforcement for our last webinar of this year, conversations with change makers. So definitely excited to get started on this. And we're going to jump right into it. And again, this is a conversation with Changemakers with lawyers and law enforcement. So we have a few here panelists. We have Minister Rebecca Thomas in the law field. We have Minister Tyrone Brinkley, who's in the law enforcement, as well as Minister Angelica Halflight. Hope I didn't butcher that. In the law field, as well as Assistant Pastor Jacob Green. He's also in the law field. As you saw, he just showed us a glimpse of him being in uniform right now. So I see he's on duty. So we're gonna go to get started. So basically, what we're gonna do, we're gonna open it up. I'm gonna start. Uh, Minister Jacob, are you available to talk? I know you did say you wasn't going to be on the
Yes,
whole
go
entire
ahead.
time. Okay,
I'm,
I want
I'm,
to
I'm
start
actually
with
going to be
you.
leaving here soon, so go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I want to start with you. Just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself real briefly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Jacob Green. I reside here in Columbus, Ohio, where I am a member of the Pool of Bethesda, but currently the assistant pastor at New Day Church of the Living God International. A little about myself. I'm from Columbus. Growing up here, this was actually the last thing I wanted to do was become a police officer. It kind of fell in my lap. I thought I was going to go into the medical field. That didn't work. Asked Janie how many times I had to reach out to her to help me revise a paper that she technically wrote for me. Um, and I'm married, as you guys all know. I have a 11-month-old. He'll be one next 2 weeks. Uh, I love what I do. It is a very life changing thing. I've seen a lot, unfortunately, deaths, murders, suicide, kidnappings, rapes, all of the above. That some without prayer, I wouldn't have been able to make it through. Honestly, without being able to like talk about it with people, it's something that's like it's very life changing. I always talk to Tim, and he always gets on me because he's anti law enforcement. But we thank God for those who are in the church who decided to go that route, whether it's being an attorney, being a police officer, in a field to where it's just changing. So that's all.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna go to Minister Tyrone Brinkley and get the law enforcement to go for Minister Tyrone Brinkley, because I know you also you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So for those of you who don't know me but have heard my name before, Minister Tyrone Brinkley. I'm the music director slash Minister of Music for Christ Redeemer down here in Gulfport, Mississippi. I'm not originally from Mississippi. I grew up, was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, and I lived there all the way up until I graduated high school. Joined the military. I was stationed in Gulfport back in 2007. I was a CB, which is basically the construction battalion in the military, deployed 4 times, once to Iraq, once to Afghanistan, once to Africa, and once to Kuwait. After that, I got out the military, stayed down here in Mississippi because it was cheaper and the people were nicer. And so after that, I did various different jobs. I used to go from selling cars to working in construction to opportunities where I almost started my own business, which fell through. But then I came across law enforcement, and preferably federal law enforcement. So currently, what I am what you would consider Department of Defense police. I am a civilian police officer that works for the federal government alongside military police. You'll see all of us on different bases, different Air Force bases, Navy bases, Army, and Marine Corps bases. We are the civilian counterpart to the military police. Um, we are also the same exact thing as VA police and Capitol Police. We're all the same thing. So we're considered Department of Defense police. And same thing as previously mentioned before, you know, being in the military and also now working in law enforcement, you experience a lot of things. I've seen, homicides, I've seen suicides, I've seen kidnappings, human trafficking. I think the only thing that I can probably say with confidence that I have not experienced is active shooter. Um, so going through and seeing a lot of stuff, it does take a toll on you mentally. But the benefit of, what we have is we have Christ, and Christ is my mental anchor, which allows me to be able to uh, stand firm on my faith and what I believe as far as doing the job that I need to do righteously. It's a great honor. It definitely is life changing. You experience and you deal with a lot of things, and by the grace of God, you're actually also usually being in law enforcement. Usually the first one on scene before everyone gets there, and you actually can be that rock that kind of starts that process of bringing people back to a mindset where they need to be, especially in God.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Minister Tyrone. We're going to go to Minister Angelica now.
Hi, everybody. Minister Angelica Hallfight here. I live in Dublin, Ireland. Currently a part of the European jurisdiction. Funny enough, this is how I joined CLGI, the church, in the European jurisdiction, where my parents were stationed in the UK. So, full circle moment living back here. I've been in Dublin for 8 years. Currently, I serve as the treasurer for the European Youth and Young Adult Department. And for my professional career, I am an international commercial and data privacy counsel for a company, Strava, which is an athletic tracking company. So I've been with them for the past couple of months, but I have experience started my career in private practice back in 2012. I clerked for a judge. I was doing a bit of family law. Um, was not as successful as Rebecca with starting her own law firm. So I'm telling you, it is a whole ball game, and she is crushing it. So that wasn't my calling. So I switched to commercial, and I've been negotiating agreements for IT and cloud services companies for the past 6 years. And recently, in the last year, I've made a switch to go into data protection. So I'm doing both data protection and commercial contracting for my current company. And that is me. Oh, yes, let me talk about my husband because he's on the call. I am married to Minister Xavier Hallfight. Oh, I did that. Oh, he gonna kill me if we get off this phone. Minister Xavier Hallfight. And I have a wonderful daughter, Joy. She's so precious. And I am expecting a new bundle of joy. And now.
I hope he's not gonna put his hands on you. That's called domestic violence.
Oh, stop. Look at Joy. Okay, Joy. Okay. They're recording this, y'all. Hi, Joy. Bye. Bye. Sorry, Rebecca.
Praise the Lord. That's funny. All right, Minister Rebecca.
This is funny. Okay, so my name is Minister Rebecca Thomas. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I grew up in the church, grew up Kojic, and then went to college, originally in Virginia. And I'd gone to the church there and met some saints and ended up transferring to Ohio and went to college in Ohio, graduated there, and went back to Atlanta and worked. I think I was a teacher for a year and then went to law school with this idea that I was going to change the education system and make it all better for all of us. And did that work for the Department of Civil Rights in the Education Department and realized that that wasn't it. But anyway, went to Emory Law School there in Atlanta, graduated. I met my wonderful husband. And the summer before I graduated, I got married and then moved to California. And so we kind of commuted a little bit for one semester. But once I graduated, I immediately moved to California in terms of taking the bar exam out here. And I've been a lawyer now since 2016. And I came to the church in Ohio and then in Georgia, and that's where me and my husband met because the late great Bishop Edwards introduced. She would be not happy with me up in heaven if I did not tell y'all that she introduced me and my husband, and she was very happy that she was the reason that we met. She prepped him all day long to meet me and bought him some shoes and everything. And so we got married in Latonia, and then we've been in California since 2016. And I have been in various areas of practice. I had always wanted to be an attorney. I started out working for a nonprofit organization in California. So I didn't have to charge anybody, and that was great. But I got great exposure to court. So I've been doing litigation basically from day one. I did a little bit of housing. So when people have landlord tenant issues, I did some family law where I saw a lot of things that Assistant Pastor Green was saying. I had a lot of folks that had domestic violence issues. So I had to represent people in those when they wanted to get restraining orders from folks who have been violent, normally their partners. And then I had a baby and could not take the money that they don't pay you that much when you do when you work for a nonprofit. So moved more in-house, moved more private, and had worked for various types of law firms, big firms, where you make a bunch of money, but they have a lot of political games, to smaller firms. But now I have my own firm doing a lot of different types of litigation, from family law to employment law. I do in-house counsel for some firms, and then I also do a lot of real estate law as well. And it's been interesting. It's been fun, but it also has been a great opportunity to witness. My husband and I are part of Oceanside Worship Center in Oceanside, California, but we also have a Bible study, and have been able to have, I have friends that are judges, and one of the staple members of our Bible study is a judge here in Orange County, and it's been really great to kind of see the Lord move through that. And I'm excited to be on the panel and to be here with you guys.
All right. Thank you all for those wonderful introductions. Everyone that's also attending, feel free to put your questions in your chat, and we'll make sure we get your questions answered by the panelists today. I want to start off with the question for the law enforcement, and in a way, the lawyers, y'all pretty much also answered this because I noticed when even Minister Jacob was introducing himself, and even as you just mentioned, Minister Rebecca, about the things that y'all have seen in this career field, such as domestic violence and um, um, uh, different abuses and murders and whatnot. My question is, as a Christian, as somebody that's saved, how do you handle that and maintaining your Christian values when you this for most of again for the law enforcement, Minister Jacob and Minister Tyrone, if you've ever been in a situation where you've seen, you know, I want to answer this because on the news, like if you see stuff on the news, how do you handle the situation going about if it becomes violent? If you've been in that situation, if it's a violent situation, when it comes to someone that you're, whether it's a traffic stop or what traffic stop or whatever it may be, how do you find yourself handling that situation if it could turn violent, where you have to make that choice or where you take it, whether you have to use lethal force or non-lethal force? Minister
I'll
Jacob,
go
if you
first
can
since
answer that. Okay.
yeah. Well, by the grace of God, I've never had to go lethal force. Because that's level 8 for us. Obviously, lethal force is pulling my firearm out. I've never had to do that by the grace of God. But one thing, me personally, I love traffic stops. As if you know me, I love to talk, so I love to get out there and just have that relationship with the community. Especially, I work in the inner city of Columbus, which is like the heart of Columbus. I mean, so I deal with a lot of people who are that look like me, uh, and when I deal with people who look like me, in my personal opinion, I'm a little more comfortable. I can talk to them how I want to talk to them. I don't feel like I need to put on this face because I can. When I was coaching, I would coach in like a predominant white area, and you can't talk to them like you would talk to somebody who looked like you. So on traffic stops specifically, uh, I always treat them like they're human. Uh, I mean, I don't know if this is incriminating myself, but I never pull people over for stuff that I do. So if I speed, I'm not gonna pull you over for that. If I don't use my blinker, if I don't turn into the closest lane, that stuff is petty. I really go for kind of the bigger stuff. Um, and when I do it, I just, I treat them like they're human. I talk to them like they're human. I laugh, make jokes, but I will put my hands on them if I have to. I'm not afraid to go hands on. I would, as we say, I'll put my paws on them, and if I gotta politely rough somebody up, I will do it because there is an order to what we do. I don't just go to a traffic stop and immediately think I'm gonna pull this person out the car. Like if I have a legal reason to pull you off the car, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you multiple times. I know a lot of officers who don't look like me. They do the ask, tell, make. I kind of do the ask nicely, ask, tell you, then make you. I go the extra mile because of the simple fact I know they're afraid because of what they do see on TV and what the public has made law enforcement seem like. We're not all bad. I know we've all heard that before, but traffic stop specifically is one of those things. It's hit and miss. I always tell people just cooperate. Even if you're driving with no license, just tell me that. Let's just get that out the way. If you're doing something wrong, just tell me that because lying is not going to get you nowhere.
All right, thank you. Minister Tyrone, if you had anything to add to that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like exactly the same way. One thing that I tell people all the time is we don't want to be on this traffic stop just as much as you don't want to be on this traffic stop. If it was up to me, I'd be sitting over there in the corner eating my sandwich like I was doing. You know, so dealing with going back to the question as far as if it does go to that point where I have to use less than lethal or lethal force, God forbid, you know, the main thing is, like, for me personally, I separate myself from the situation, but I don't separate myself from the morality of the situation. So what I mean by that is, in the event, like let's look at the scenario we had. We had a situation where we had somebody who, I don't know the age group of the people that are on the call, so I'm going to keep this as G as possible. But we had somebody who inflicted permanent harm to himself and tried to do the same to the next person that was with him. And thank God we came in before that was able to happen. But he was in possession of the equipment that would have been able to do that. And in those situations, the first thing that I focus on is, well, first safety, of course, but secondly, rapport. Letting people know that, treating them like they're human, treating them like they're human. Like, in this situation, your emotions are what's going on right now. Let's come back to reality. Let's talk about the situation. If I pull somebody over on a traffic stop and they're speeding, let me figure out why they're doing what they're doing first. That way we can dictate what's going to happen next, because you never know. Somebody may be late to their child getting picked up from school. Somebody may be trying to go and get to the hospital. There's a lot of situations. So understanding that why, treating people like they're human. I think the only time I ever had a situation that I was fearful was I had somebody, because we deal with people from all over the United States that have possible criminal history. We had somebody that was he was wanted out of the state of Minnesota. He's wanted from Minnesota for like a traffic, for a failure to appear. And we have to detain them. We have to put cuffs on them. We gotta sit them off to the side. We have to monitor that they're stable and calm until the arresting agency is coming to come pick them up. And a lot of times people don't want to be arrested. They don't want to sit there. They don't want to sit there and think about what's about to happen, what's possible that's going to happen. So in those situations, going back to treating people like they're human, just letting them know what's going to happen next. Sir, this is what's going to happen. This is what you can look forward to happening. This is what you can do when you get there. Not necessarily legal advice, but just saying, hey, when you get there, just pay your fine and then take care of your stuff. But giving them that level of humanity that's like, look, he's a human doing his job. Let me do what I need to do so I'm not in this situation anymore.
All right, thank you. I got a couple questions in the chat. I want to ask, this is for the lawyers. How do you handle and deal with the stigma that attorneys manipulate the truth, aka are liars? Minister, yeah,
I
Minister
can I can go
Vanessa.
first because I think that um one of the reasons why that is a stigma is because one of our jobs is to identify the facts, right? And then look at the law, and the law has loopholes. And people don't like that the law has loopholes. And it's our job to be able to critically look at that, evaluate that, and whoever our client is, right? Look at the situation that's going to be most advantageous to our client. But you know, have you ever heard the saying that there's normally three sides to a story? What you saw, what the other person saw, and then what actually happened. Um, I think why it feels like people, lawyers manipulate the truth is because most people only see their perspective and what they see as true, right? So, for example, I've done a lot of domestic violence, but I also do housing work. And in housing work, you look at the law. There are a lot of statutes that determine what the law is. And you know, if the law says if you don't pay your rent in 3 days, right, then they get to put you out. They're like, well, you paid your rent at 12:01. Well, it was the next day. You get what I mean? So it's I think that how I deal with that is I'm more of a transparent person, even in the law. I don't code switch, even in front of juries. I speak how I speak. I talk how I talk. And I'm honest. And even in family law, I tell my clients, I don't care if you want to do that, if that's what's best for your child, right? So I try to face that stigma with being transparent, which is going beyond what's asked sometimes, as long as it doesn't hurt my client and they fire me. But you know, going beyond what's asked to be offering information that's going to shed more light on the situation so that people can see the whole situation, right? So I teach in a legal studies program, and I literally have my students. I put a figure in the room and I have them stand in different parts, and they'll tell me what they see, and I'm like, the other person doesn't see that, right? Because it's from your perspective. So I try to show a lot of times. That's why I love God, right? Like God can see all things. He knows the actual truth, right? And a lot of times we're like, okay, God is up here. He can see everything, but we can't see what God sees. So I try to give people a little bit of confidence in being transparent with them and give them confidence that you are actually telling the truth, but also just letting them know life ain't fair. The law ain't always fair. It's not always on your side. So you might think I'm not telling you the truth, but that just means it just might not be in your favor. That doesn't mean people are liars. So I just try to combat it with transparency, building rapport, like Minister Brinkley said, is, you know, getting people to understand the circumstances, the perspective. So that's kind of how I combat it. And then I also tell folks there are attorneys who do lie, but there are also people who lie. You know, so you know.
Yeah. I would say from my perspective, I haven't experienced that stigma so much, and I think the stigma comes from what you see on TV, right? Hey Josiah. I think it happens based on like the stigma comes from what you see on TV. They show a bunch of TV shows. The lawyers are out there lying, playing games, drama, and then the profession gets that perception. But I think on an everyday basis, when I interact with people, when I tell folks I'm a legal counselor, I don't get the ooh you like okay yeah, so it depends on like I think it also depends on the role and the area in which you practice. So where I'm practicing, I'm just looking at contracts and I'm looking at how do I protect a person's personal data. No one's really, I mean, that stuff is like pretty straightforward. What it says is what it says. What the regulation says is what it says. It's hard to kind of swing it your way. So depending on what area you go into will determine where you get that stigma. I do think if you're working with people and you're working with like issues in their personal life, like what Minister Rebecca does, one Minister Tyrone and Minister Jacob, what they're doing, they're dealing with people's personal lives. So of course, if the law is not going their way, they're going to say something bad about them. Like they're just going to take it out on those people. But if you're dealing in another area where it's more black and white, and you're just dealing with, it doesn't exactly all the time have an impact on your day to day, you may not get that stigma. So,
And if I can just add this last piece, she
mm,
nail on the head. People see TV and they assume that that's what happens in real life, and
yeah.
it's just so far from the truth. Which is why I try to
Mm,
explain that to people. You're gonna get that what they see on TV is they always see the litigators. There's
yeah.
so many different areas of law where you'll
Yeah.
never see the inside of a courtroom. I do litigation and I see the inside of a courtroom. So that's where you see that's the most interesting part, right? They want to catch people
Mm-hmm.
lying on the stand, all that. But there's so many other areas of law where you never have to see the inside of a courtroom, but that's what they
Yeah.
show on TV. So I tell people
Yeah.
that too, like that's all for drama. Because to be very honest, we get sanctioned. I'm an officer of the court. I have to take an oath. I'm not putting my oath and my license on nobody. I'm not lying for nobody
Yeah.
because it's perjury. And more importantly, we have to take an oath and you can be sanctioned if you're lying. It's very serious. They just make it look different on TV.
Yeah.
Okay, good information. You mentioned litigation, and there's many other parts when it comes to law. Could you name some of those things? Because I know when it comes to that, people do look at TV, and it is the reality. We make these
Yeah.
assumptions with law enforcement and lawyers based off what we see on TV. What are some of the other areas of law that they can pursue, or consider pursuing, that's outside of the litigations?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say this, and then I keep calling you Jelly, but you might not want us to call you that.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
That's what we used to call it back in the day. I will say, I tell people this: if you think about every industry there is, that
Yeah.
industry has a lawyer. My
Yeah.
husband is an engineer; they have IP lawyers,
Yeah.
right? My husband, he works in medical devices and all that type of stuff. They have to have people to get patents, copyright. They're entertainment lawyers. They're
Mm-hmm.
education lawyers. They're every industry you can think of has a lawyer
Yep.
because the being a lawyer really is you are looking at a body of something that tells you what to do, whether it's, our constitution or it's statutes, but it could also be a procedure manual, right? Like for your company. So I also do employment law, all companies, right? There are laws that regulate how businesses must interact with their employees. So
Mm-hmm.
that is an area of law. Everything you can think of has a lawyer involved, not just like Minister Brinkley and Minister Jacob. They're out there, on the law enforcement side. So there are public defenders and prosecutors who prosecute people for criminal things. That's one area. Criminal law is its own area. There's family lawyers when folks maybe have kids and they're not married. They want to have to handle custody issues.
Mm-hmm.
If there's it's hard to name because any area in life you think
Yeah.
of, and I've worked in a few of them. I used to be an education lawyer. I used to do special education if your kids have special needs. There's an attorney that can represent you in making sure that the school district is giving you the right services.
Yeah.
Everything you can think of, there's a lawyer in that field. And you don't have to have a certain background, except for
Yeah.
IP stuff. They want you to be an engineer or have some science.
Mm-hmm.
But you could your undergrad could be art. They have art, they have lawyers who look at art transactions. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
everything is it's a great career because you're not boxed in to start your career. You could have a degree in handwriting and go to law school.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's so true. So, and I remember I was saying this to, I think it was Minister Ajuman's son, because he was asking about it, and he said, what do I need to do to prepare myself for law school?" And I was like, well, if I were you, like, you can get your degree in anything as long as you just keep your grades up. And I would just go the route of doing internships in different fields that you're interested in, because chances are you can enter the legal field in that same industry. And just for myself, like, I work in the IT cloud services industry right now, but I had zero tech experience when I started. Like, when I moved from Maryland to Ireland, um, I tried to continue a private continue in private practice, but they weren't taking any American lawyers. I was not EU qualified. They were like, you're not going to be able to get in. So thank the Lord I got a job with Verizon as a contract manager, but they stuck me in IT. And I was like, I have never worked on a computer. I don't understand this stuff. Me and Safia used to have arguments before I got a job, and he would talk all, Google and cloud and this, and this. And I was saying, stop talking to me about that. You know I don't understand. You're trying to make me feel stupid. And then I got stuck in IT doing negotiating their contracts, and it completely changed. I fell in love with it, and it's been 6-7 years now that I haven't gone back. And so now I'm in data protection, which is very much still in the same area because most people are having issues with large tech companies harboring data and misusing it, AI coming in. So all these things, you know, when I was going to law school from 2009 2012, this wasn't in my mind, not even in my mind. So I would just tell, the young people who are interested in going to the legal field, know what you're interested in, but you don't have to be married to it. You can change. You can, you know, go with the flow, and because they're like Rebecca said, you're not boxed in the legal field. You're not boxed in. So
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I got a question. Well, another question for the law enforcement. What what advice would you give someone considering a career in law enforcement, and while maintaining their faith, right? Because again, even as they gave the example with the attorney, how the TV show, they show cops, dirty cops back, it don't seem like, everything is well, even on movies and TVs. So someone that's pursuing that, what advice would you give them, and encourage them with is even that is able to be accomplished as you two are doing it in your faith and keeping your faith and is not causing you to veer off.
I can go first on that one. Um, if you don't mind, Brother Green, on mute. Okay. So I put my uniform on side so he wouldn't feel alone. But 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 so when it comes to that, like it's really dependent on your personality. You have to understand yourself first. I don't mean as far as where you stand in your faith, but as far as understanding what influences you and what you can like if like how can I explain it? Like really what type of person you are. Like are you somebody who is swayed easily left and right? Are you somebody who follows at the people, or are you a natural leader? Those type of things, knowing your weaknesses, knowing your strengths. Because being a Christian and being in law enforcement is almost in certain circumstances like trying to mix water and oil. Some things do not mix, and in those situations, you have to know, okay, I'm water. There's oil over there. I'm not going to go over there. So as far as the company that you keep, that type of thing, because the people who, and I'm pretty sure Brother Green can agree with me on that, the law enforcement humor, the law enforcement conversation is a desensitized and dark atmosphere in certain situations. And you have to know, like, okay, this conversation is going this way. I'm going to go over here and go do some paperwork. But to be able to have the strength to be able to do that. Also, understanding that there's a difference um, between fitting in and blending in. The difference between fitting in and blending in means I'm here, we're working together, we're buddy, we're at work, we're good, we look after each other's back, but I don't have to be a part of what you're doing on a daily basis. I don't have to go and partake in the things that you're partaking in, or being a part of the groups that you guys have, but also I'm not hiding who I am from you. They call me, at my job, they call me officer preacher, because every other word that come out of my mouth is something that has to do with God. And everybody knows that. And at first they'll, because like I said, law enforcement is a really dark atmosphere. If you were not in the military, law enforcement will be a culture shock. If you were in the military, you kind of it's kind of the same humor, right? But standing your ground, letting you know, look, this is who I am, this is who I'm a part of, because they will test you, they will try you, they will try to get you to do things, try to get you to say things. They'll even say things around you and look at you to see how you respond to them. All of those different things. Now, is all law enforcement that way? Absolutely not. But there are a lot of people in law enforcement that are like that. So standing your ground, understanding like, look, I'm here. I tell people all the time, I'm a minister, I'm a child of God, I'm a man of faith who so happens to be a police officer. God comes first, my family comes second, then my job comes third. Does that mean my job is not important? No, it's very important. It's life and death and situations that dealing with people and their lives. But as far as the three most important things, that's where that sits. So basically understanding that plays a major part. Also, if you want to be in law enforcement, you have to make sure you want to be in law enforcement, because if that it is something that you are serious about, that's something that you're not looking at lightly, just like the military. I tell my son, and this is just my personal opinion, I think the worst thing that you can join the military for is going to college. Not saying that military is not good for going to college. It is awesome for going to college, but don't join the military just because you want to go to college, because you're going to be upset because you don't have time to go to college while you're in. You'll wind up wasting a lot of time in college, and it affects your career because you're focused on school, but you can't focus on your job while you're focused on school, or vice versa. You're going to school, you focus so much on your job, and then your grades is messed up because you can't focus on that. You just don't have the time to do it. So if that's your sole reason, you're going to get a bad taste about either college or about the military. So, but if you're in the military and you go, I got time, I could do this, I can go to college when I'm in, do it. Absolutely. Please do it, because you want to pay for it. So understanding your priorities, getting stuff set, getting your everything in order of what you need, because you will need it. There's a lot of things you'll have to cover yourself on to make sure. It's a lot. I can go on and on about this. But there is a lot. But I would say being able to stand on 2 feet down, solid ground of who you are in God, and not being afraid of the light that you put out.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful. All right, I'm going to another question for y'all already answered one of the questions that was actually in the chat. I think Minister Angelica and Rebecca mentioned this is as we encourage our young people to explore careers, what advice would you give us in exposing to careers in law and law enforcement? What resources, training, or internships did you participate in? I know they already mentioned internships because of the different things. Now, on the law enforcement side, when it comes to trying to figure out as a young person that's getting ready to graduate from high school, and go into college or pursuing whatever career field that they would like to go in, is there certain resources and programs that a young person can get involved with if they're considering going into law enforcement? Outside, like I know you mentioned the military background, but is there other resources or in some type of necessarily, I don't think they have an internship, I could be wrong, but
They actually program, I know out here in Biloxi, they have where you can do ride-alongs with law enforcement. There's an age requirement. I forget what it is. I don't know if it's 18 or if it's 21. I think it might be, because you got to be 21 to carry a firearm in your job out here. But when it comes to internship, it's almost like you're doing ride-alongs, and they also have programs for the youth that the local law enforcement does, to let the youth know what we do, the type of situations we have, how to handle things, mental health. They come out a lot to mental health situations, dealing with certain things going on in your life and dealing with it with mental health, but the positive sides of it. And they also have what is it called? It's kind of like how they do like a block party, but it's ran by law enforcement as opposed to law enforcement doing the security. It is the law enforcement that having the block party, and they talk about different programs that they have and opportunities, and then grants for college if you're trying to go to college. They have a lot of stuff going on here. But I
Okay,
would say get with your local law enforcement to see what they have because everywhere is going to be different.
okay, gotcha.
Can I add something for the lawyer side that we didn't go over
Please.
about resources? So we're talking about what resources and training early internships you should participate in. I think for me, having been an eighth grade teacher, I now tell folks if your kids are remotely interested and think they want to halfway be a lawyer, get them exposed early because they think they do for the prestige, for the, a lot of people figure out why you think you want to be a lawyer. Because some people want to be in it because they think they're going to make a lot of money. They think that there comes a certain level of prestige and you're like, oh, you're an attorney, right? Right. Like, and sometimes they think they want that. Their parents want a certain level of security. So they're like, these are the jobs where you get all the security, be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or, so we kind of push that sometimes. So what I tell folks is as early as get exposed to a lawyer and see what they do every day. It's not glamorous. We think it's glamorous, but I sit at this computer 99% of the day, to be honest. Or I'm reading. You have to be able to really. You're reading and writing a lot, very close attention to detail, right? So I tell folks get some exposure to an actual lawyer and see what they do, not on the high points. Don't and I've had students call me to court because they even think that's glamorous, but 99% of that is sitting waiting until they call your case. You could be there for six hours and your case be in front of a judge for about 5 minutes. So I say get the students early exposure, but then if they really do, if they are interested, debate team is always good, right? It helps you start to read because debate team isn't just arguing. People think that's what it is. It's not. You're reading papers and you're seeing how quickly you can support your ideas because that's what lawyering is. So that, and then start looking at they a lot of times law schools will have outreach to undergrads and high school students. Well, they'll have law days where you get exposure. In high school, they have mock trials, mock teams. Same thing in undergrad. All of that. That's where you're going to find the scholarships for it. All of that. So I would say those are some of the resources.
And if your school doesn't have like a mock trial team, I did teen court. And it's funny how I got there. It wasn't because of me, but a little fight happened, and I ended up in the court attending with someone special, and so then I was exposed to teen court. They were attending teen court as a repercussion of their fighting, and I was like, oh, I like this. Mama, bring me back. So I did that for like 2 years in high school. And I also interned at the DC Public Defender Service. This is pre-law school. And that's what I realized because my whole life I've been watching TV. I said I want to be a prosecutor. I want to be a prosecutor. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I did 4 months in the Public Defender Service. And I was so offended by them prosecutors prosecuting juveniles that I said, I can't. I can't. So, I mean, the internships are important not just for you to figure out what you want to do, but to figure out what you don't. It is very important that you get exposed to what you're daydreaming about, be exposed to that because you could be very, very wrong. So, and it's better to find that out early than that's your main meal ticket and then you can't stop because you got to pay your rent or something like that. So,
That I will echo just this last little story. I'll echo because I did that exact same thing. I clerked. Did an externship for a judge my second year in law school, and he did criminal, and I did my first murder trial, and I thought the guy was guilty, and they found him guilty, and I still went to the bathroom and cried because I was like, oh, this black man, I just couldn't take it. Meanwhile, in the judge's chambers, it was the World Cup was on in the judge's chamber. They was back there eating chicken wings and hanging and talking.
they do not care. Life
And
does
I was
not stop for
crying
them.
in the bathroom. And I thought he was guilty and I was still sad. And that's when I knew criminal wasn't it. So it's like she said, these internships will help you determine what you like, but they will also, at that day, I was like, never will I do criminal law, ever. So it'll help, right? Getting exposure, real exposure to what it's really, really like, and don't do it for the money.
Because it ain't
Yeah,
now.
can I add something too? We have a program here in Columbus, which is crazy. It's called the Cadet Program and Explorer Program. So our cadets, like we have ride-alongs, but we also have a program where, so if you want to be a police officer in Columbus, it's actually really good to start early because you could be in the cadet program at 14, where they let you come out and process a scene, uh, come out and process a murder scene, and you also get paid to do it. So we always have cadets on our calls who want to come out and say, hey, in the future when I am 21, become a police officer. Um, just like they were saying, that's basically our internship here in Columbus is the cadet program, because they literally are right there with us. I mean, they see dead bodies just as up close as we do because, like I said, they actually help process the scenes. They get to move the bodies and stuff like that.
Do they give them therapy afterwards? Because I think prepping kids. That concerns me. Do they give them therapy afterwards to process after they've seen, the dead bodies and stuff? Like, are they properly allowing them to process this? Because it's not a game, and they're just, I don't know. That concerns me. But that doesn't need to be on the recording. But
But we
Minister
So I
we
actually
Jacob,
don't know.
agree.
Minister Jacob,
Yeah,
please.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if they give them therapy or not, but they do go through the same hiring process that we do. Ironically, so they go through a polygraph background, all this other stuff. But the therapy part, I don't know, because there's some adults who probably need therapy who don't get it. So
Pray
I'm
for 'em.
sure these these
Woo,
young these young individuals
14.
definitely need need uh need Jesus.
Yes. Lord.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you all for those responses to especially the resources that actually answered a couple of the questions y'all already actually answered. So in closing, I want to get any last remarks that you guys would like to have and share with any young people that are still considering or confused on whether or not they want to do this or don't, and anything that you wish somebody may have told you from the beginning after you've gotten into it and experienced what you've experienced, if anything like that that you would like to close in your share in your closing, this is the time. So open it up for Minister Sister Pastor Jacob. You can go first.
As we say across the pulpit, I won't be before you long. Just seek the Lord, ask Him to lead you and guide you. Pray about it. Like Minister Thompson and Minister Angelica said, you really gotta want it and look at an early age. Do your resources. Just seek the Lord. Like I said, I'm not gonna be before you long because you're about to hear Raising Canes go over my speaker. So just ask the Lord, tell Him to lead you and guide you, and He will show you what route to take. I think He'll do it for you. God bless you.
God bless you.
Amen. Minister Angelica.
I would just echo what everyone has said. I would just take your time, and I would say not rush, or I think, like, when I look back at my experience, I spent so much time trying to make sure I got the grades. I finished college really quickly, went to law school, following certain steps, and I didn't. Huh? Following certain steps, and then I didn't take the time to gain the work experience. What I mean by that is, like, doing internships, working in the field in different areas to really find out what I actually like to do. So I got my bachelor's in criminal justice. I did not use it since then. I really just never used it. And not until I was into my third year did I realize, oh, I actually like political science more. But I was too far gone. I said, I'm graduating in 6 months. I'm not going any longer. I'm just gonna finish this out. So I mean, I would say use your time, your spare time, to get exposed to different areas that you think you might want to work in. Make sure you have good grades, but you need the grades because you won't get in law school if you don't have it. But make sure you have good grades, and then just be patient with yourself. That's all I say. Be patient with yourself.
Amen. And Minister Rebecca.
Well, I'm gonna echo Assistant Pastor Green when he said pray and take it before the Lord, because when you're younger, you envision what your life going to be like when you grown, right? You don't have a full perspective, but we a lot of times as young adults, when I was a young adult, I don't know if I still I'm old now, but we envision what life is going to be like, but we don't see the little details. So I really encourage the young people to know your why and focus on the why, and help and have the Lord help you, because these two fields are both very high pressure type jobs. Even if you represent somebody else and it can be very time consuming. It can feel like a lot is on you, because like for the law enforcement, it's people's lives. When I do family law, this is somebody's life. When I do housing, it's somebody's life. They might get put out of their homes. So it's very high pressure, and it's always like you. Sometimes I just want to sit on the couch and watch TV, but I got to go write motions, and make sure that I'm doing my best job. And in law school, it could be isolating when you're a Christian, because this job is so high pressure. It's the highest rate of like suicide and depression and drinking and all that stuff, because people want to have a way to cope. So I tell young people, make sure that you know your why you want to do it. And it can't be a superficial reason. It can't just be, I want to make a bunch of money. My first job, I made $60,000. That's not a bunch of money, not in California at least. So it wasn't just the money. You know what I'm saying? Because people think lawyers are all rich. You don't always make a lot of money as a lawyer. Yeah. Right? So you have to know your why, because that'll help you when you're studying late at night, because then you'll be like, this, at least I know why I'm doing this. And the Lord would have confirmed that he's okay with you doing it. Because I wanted to be a lawyer when I was a kid. When I got saved, I had to recheck and make sure God was okay with me being a lawyer. Does it make sense? Because you can have dreams, but then if God's not okay with those dreams, then you're just pushing, you're just pressing your way. And he could allow those two to merge, right? Which for me, he did. And it's many of people have been drawn to at least our Bible study. And even my clients, they know that they'll call me minister lawyer, they call me, right? So they'll text me and say, amen, we on a good fight, even my clients. So I can see that the Lord allowed it, but you want to check and make sure that your dream aligns with God, because then he'll make it all right. Because law school is hard. It's very hard. It is not games. It is not, you know what I'm saying? It's long nights of studying. And people cope in many ways, taking caffeine pills. And I used to take them because I wanted to stay up. I just wanted to stay up and study, right? If you don't come from a very well-off family, you can come out with a lot of debt. I have a lot of debt. And we don't talk about that stuff. We don't tell these students. So you have to know your why. You know what I mean? And make sure that God has given you the why, right? And that it's going to be used for his glory too, not just to line our pockets, because it might not work out. So I encourage young people, you have resources. We do have resources in the church. We might not always know, but that's why we're doing this one, right? You at least got two lawyers, in CLGI, right? I think we might be the only ones. I think we're the only ones, right?
Yeah, I think the only other one was
she
was
passed
in
away.
Florida. Yeah, she
Yeah,
passed
she
away.
passed
That
away.
was the only one.
So we have two lawyers. We at least got two police officers, right? Like you have asked us, what does the day-to-day look like? How have you been able to merge having a family, right? If you want to have a family, how, you need to get practical experience so that you can understand what you're getting yourself into. And if you really want to do it for real, and don't do it for your parents. Don't do it for you, because only you, when you get 35, are going to be regretting whether you're a lawyer, So I just encourage you to take it before the Lord and pray in a real way, not in a fake way, not in a superficial way, not playing around, but ask the Lord for real if this is where he's leading you and if he can be with you doing it, right? Because if he ain't with you, it ain't gonna go well. So that was my
Well, may the Lord watch.
you got to get Minister Brinkley. Here he goes.
Mr. Brinkley had to step out. He's actually
hold on before he goes.
Okay.
I wanted to say something I wanted to add something to what she said that is 1,000% the truth. I mean, a lot of people think that's probably a spiritual, deep answer to seek the Lord, because she says something that makes so much sense. If it's not in the Lord's will, it won't work out, no matter what you want to do, because the Lord knows what career we all should have that will keep us saved. And he also knows what career we might want that will cause us to either fall into sin and draw us away from Him. So a lot of times, she said it, and you hit the nail on the head. You got to ask the Lord, because you look into a career like, oh, I want to be an attorney because they make a lot of money, but you might become an attorney and become the opposite of what attorneys are supposed to be. You might be that lying attorney just because, well, defense attorneys make a lot of money. But she said that you got to make sure that whatever career you want is in God's will, because if it's not in God's will, it might not work out.
And you can use it for the Lord. And I'm gonna say this as we close, because one of the areas that I try now to get in is church law, because we have a lot of churches that aren't protected in many ways. And and now I'm the ombudsman for the church. Our church now has a position called ombudsman. We have the new bylaws and all of that, where you need to have somebody that can help with the compliance part, all of that. So the Lord can use, you know what I'm saying? He can use you. By the way, I need to talk to you, Jelly. Uh,
No, I know I need to talk to you too.
yeah,
'Cause I'm
but he
doing
can
data
use you.
protection for the European jurisdiction.
We got to talk, but the Lord can use it, is all I'm saying. So if you try your best to align with the Lord and make sure, so all that he said to. Okay, I'm done.
Amen. Well, praise the Lord. Wonderful, wonderful. We got that word in at the end, so I'm encouraged. Praise the Lord. Minister Brinkley actually had to step out. He's actually playing for a funeral that's going on for Elder Thompson's brother. So please keep Elder Pastor Thompson, Christ Redeemer, and family in prayer. They're having his brother's funeral today. But yes, so thank you all. Thank you, panelists. I want to thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. This turned out to be very, very well informed and a blessing. So I pray that this is an encouragement to the young people who are pursuing, and maybe even encourage somebody who's been teetering, tottering because of the media per se on even getting in one of these career fields. So I thank God for you all for being a blessing to the church. Um, and I want to thank all the attendees that have joined us today, tuning in. We thank you for the time. We thank you for coming in. And we ask that you share this. It's recorded, so we'll be able to make this public and send it out to everybody for the young people to view at a later time. Amen. I wanted to ask if Elder Burt and Dr. Moore, our international officials of the Youth and Young Adult Department, are online with us, if they have any closing remarks before we end the call.
I'll give Dr. J more the time. I put my comments in the chat, and thank you all for your time. But she's got a special guest with her, and we want to turn it over to her.
A special guest? JoJo?
Josiah.
Come on, sugar. Yeah. Come on, sugar.
Our future lawyer.
Cheeks.
Oh, and law first. Oh, he got his outfit on.
Police. Okay.
Love it.
That's so funny.
But I just
wait. I want to see it. Hold on. Tell me to get back on the camera.
Turn around so you can see the back of it. There you go. All right.
There you go. True snitch.
Nice. Badge and everything. Thank you, special guest. Right. Well, praise the Lord. Just want to thank everybody for coming. The conversations with Changemakers are very important sessions, and like you actually said it during this session. Like, now we know we have 2 attorneys, we have at least 2 police officers. We know we have more, but for the young people to have access to you guys so that they can ask the questions about the day-to-day, and then also knowing that you are filled with the Spirit and can help them to keep the spiritual side of things in mind as they're seeking out careers in these areas. The IAD department is truly grateful for you all, and thank you for this time and opportunity. And I would love to see all of our young people become attorneys and make all the money. No. I'm just messing because that's
hilarious.
But I really want to thank you guys for being here for us. And Josiah has really been inspired by the police officers. That's why I had Jacob come on so he could see his uniform, and then Minister Brinkley did it, and he just, like the kids, they hear about these careers specifically a lot, and service careers. And so for them to actually see and to know and put a name and a face and be able to touch it is really a blessing. So thank you all again. God bless.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dr. Moore. I want to also announce real quickly. I think Elderberg also put it in the chat. The next IAD AE program is IAD University College Prep Series, which is in November, starting every Monday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Amen. All right. Again, thank you, panelists. Thank you all for joining. So much. Thanks. So much appreciation. Oh, you have
Mr.
something?
Rebecca wants to release.
Oh.
Yes, I just wanted, since we're giving announcements, just a little plug. So I'm gonna be doing a webinar where Bishop Jay is gonna be our speaker, and we're gonna be talking about professional development. It's for the Pacific Northwest's academic excellence. It's our next program. And a lot of times we have like for the younger folks, but what if you're already out of college, right? And now you're into your career. What does professional development really look like? How can you do that in a godly way, right? And so that's one. It's gonna be October 19th. I will Minister Trey, he was on here. He gonna help me with that flyer because I can't do that well. But he's gonna help me with that flyer. And we have another program. Minister Ajaman and Minister Conway are gonna be on, and that's on November 2nd. And that one is gonna be for the parents. How do I begin the process of like estate planning and funding like college and thinking about that stuff early, not just like tell them to get scholarships, but what is a 529? What can my estate plan do, right, to assist me in futures for my kids, and what are the options? Because we don't always talk about money in estate planning either. So I'm gonna throw in my estate planning piece in there to tell us to get our stuff together, and then we're gonna talk about how to plan for the kids. So that's November 2nd, which are both Saturdays, and there'll be webinars and they'll be available online.
Oh, wonderful. Both of those two subjects are my favorite, so I'm happy to hear that. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Any other quick announcements? No. All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you to panelists definitely for this, and thank you for everybody that joined us. And again, the live recording will be available soon. God bless everybody. I have enjoy the rest of y'all weekend.
Bye-bye.
Jelly, you got my number? Text me.
I don't have your number.
Okay, can I give it to you real quick?
I got
Yeah. Do you have WhatsApp? Do you have WhatsApp?
Let me stop the recording. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me stop the recording. There we go.
Oh.
Yeah. Stop recording.